The sirens came first, then the headlines. Billionaire CEO under federal investigation. By noon, his accounts were frozen. By night, his name was poison. They called him corrupt, arrogant, untouchable. But not one of them knew the truth, that someone powerful wanted him erased. He built an empire, and lost it in a single morning. But fate had a cruel sense of humor, because the person who would save him wasn't rich, wasn't famous, and wasn't supposed to exist in his world. Before we go further, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? And if stories of power, betrayal, and second chances pull you in, subscribe before the next twist catches you off guard. The morning started with rain that didn't stop. It rolled down the glass walls of Caldwell Tower, blurring the skyline he once owned. Inside, Darius stood before 30 screens, each flashing the same headline: his name, his company, his downfall. Hallibridge under investigation. CEO accused of massive fraud. Caldwell's fortune freezes overnight. He didn't blink, didn't speak. The boardroom that once echoed with power had gone silent. One by one, his executives had walked out, phones pressed to their ears, pretending they didn't know him. Downstairs, reporters were already gathering. Helicopters hovered above the building like vultures waiting for the body to cool. The SEC warrant came before lunch. By the time they escorted him out, the drizzle had turned into a full storm. Cameras caught every step. The man who used to arrive in black convoys now shoved into a taxi he didn't own. He didn't bother calling anyone. Every number in his phone was already useless. His lawyer stopped answering. His ex-fiancée sold her story. His assistant turned over company files before noon. He'd built everything from a college dorm room, the coding nights, the 4 a.m. meetings, the sleepless rise from Atlanta's dusty startups to Wall Street's glass towers. It took 20 years to climb, and only 2 signatures to fall. The taxi driver kept glancing at him through the mirror. Recognition flickered, then pity. Darius told him to pull over near Fulton Street and stepped into the rain. For the first time in years, no one followed. No one cared. He walked aimlessly, coat soaked through, hair plastered to his forehead. A food truck vendor called after him, but the sound barely reached him. The world felt muted, distant, like a dream in rewind. Under the subway awning, he stopped. He stared at his reflection in a puddle, the once celebrated genius of Halo Bridge reduced to a headline villain. Then came the push. A shoulder hit his back hard. A man brushed past him, muttering something low, urgent, hateful. Before Darius could turn, the man was gone. That's when he saw her. A woman in a faded varsity jacket, calm eyes, steady hands, standing just behind him. She didn't flinch. She didn't stare. She simply said, "You should move. People are watching." He followed her eyes. A shadow in the corner, a camera phone raised, another flash. His face was still news. She walked toward the train without waiting for thanks. He should have let her go. But something about her stillness in the chaos drew him forward. The crowd swallowed them both. The train screeched into the station. She turned once, met his gaze, and said quietly, "If I were you, I'd disappear before sunset." He almost laughed. "Disappearing's not easy when you've been everywhere." She smiled faintly. "It is when no one believes in you anymore." The doors closed between them. The train pulled away. And in that fleeting moment, in those 2 seconds, Darius Caldwell didn't know it yet, but his story had already changed. The train roared through the tunnel like a wounded beast, its lights flickering over faces that didn't care who he was. Darius sat at the end of the car, collar damp, mind spinning. For years he'd built walls of luxury to keep chaos out. Now chaos rode beside him, breathing through strangers who didn't even glance his way. He replayed her words. "Disappear before sunset." Her voice was calm, sure, like someone who'd seen this kind of fall before. He didn't know her name, didn't know why she cared, but something about her tone carried weight, the kind of truth money couldn't buy. At the next stop, he got off. The air was heavy with that metallic underground scent, rust, sweat, and wet concrete. As the crowd thinned, he saw her again, standing by a vending machine, eyes fixed on a teenage boy yelling into his phone. "Put it down," she told the boy. "You don't have to prove anything to them." He cursed, turned away, and stormed off. She didn't chase him, just stood there, steady as stone. When she noticed Darius watching, she offered a small, tired smile. Some people just need someone to tell them they still have a choice. "Who tells you that?" he asked. She shrugged. "Nobody. But I keep saying it anyway." He wanted to ask her name, but before he could, a man brushed past them. Same dark hoodie, same restless energy. Then a glint of metal flashed near his hand. She saw it before Darius did. Her hand grabbed his arm and pulled him down just as something hard struck the wall behind them. The man kept walking, disappearing into the tunnel's shadows. Darius froze. His heart pounded like it wanted out of his chest. She leaned close, whispering, "Left calf. Sunburst tattoo. Don't forget it." Then she straightened, checked her phone, and spoke as if nothing had happened. "You shouldn't be here. The press knows you're in the city. Go somewhere quiet." "How do you know that?" he asked, voice low. She didn't answer right away. The train thundered past again, scattering dust through the air. Then she looked up, eyes sharp. "Because I read between lines, Mr. Caldwell." The way she said his name made him go still. He hadn't told her who he was. She turned to leave, pulling her hood up against the rain that had begun to fall again outside the station entrance. He called out, "Wait! What's your name?" She didn't look back. "Naomi," she said simply, vanishing into the downpour. He stood there for a long moment, surrounded by echoes of train wheels and storm water, until he finally realized what was missing from her warning. She hadn't told him how to survive what was coming next. He climbed the stairs to the street, the city still roaring above him. His empire was gone, his name ruined, his safety uncertain. But somewhere in that storm, there was one person who saw him differently. And whether she was his salvation or his final mistake, he would find out soon enough. The next morning broke without light. Just fog, heavy and gray, curling over the skyline like smoke from something that had already burned. Darius sat on the edge of a motel bed in Harlem, staring at a cracked mirror. The reflection didn't fit the name that used to open doors. His tailored suit was wrinkled, shirt unbuttoned, watch missing. The man who once decided the price of a company now couldn't decide whether to shave or disappear. The phone on the nightstand vibrated again. Another unknown number. Another threat disguised as concern. He silenced it. His life had become a loop of silence and suspicion. Outside, church bells rang faintly through the mist. He wandered out, hands deep in his coat pockets, head low. Past the boarded shops and flickering neon signs, he found the source, Abyssinian Baptist Church. The doors were open. The choir rehearsed, low and beautiful. He slipped in, sat at the back, invisible. For a moment, the music softened the noise in his head. He closed his eyes. "Didn't think I'd see you here." Her voice again, quiet but steady. He looked up. Naomi Brooks stood a few rows ahead, a candle in her hand, flame trembling. She turned slightly, half a smile on her face. "You didn't follow instructions." "I didn't know where else to go," he said. She walked over, sat beside him. "You could have gone home." "They took it," he replied, "along with everything else." Naomi placed the candle in the holder before them. "Then build something new. But first, figure out who lit the match." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Darius studied her face. Not polished beauty, but quiet certainty. The kind that made people listen. "You talk like you know how this works." She met his gaze. "I've seen men like you before. They always think it's about the money. It's never about the money." He frowned. "Then what is it about?" "Power," she said softly. "And what happens when someone like you stops having it?" He leaned back. "You think I deserve this?" "I think you deserve answers." She pulled a small notebook from her bag and slid it toward him. "Start writing names. People who'd rather see you ruined than rebuilt." He hesitated, then took the pen. 3 names came fast. Preston Vale, Celine Hart, Avery Knox. Naomi glanced at the list, her expression unreadable. She tapped the first one with her finger. Preston. Darius looked at her. He mentored me. He profited from you, she said simply. And men who call you son are either family or farmers. Farmers raise things just to harvest them. The line hit harder than he expected. Naomi closed the notebook and stood. You still have one advantage. What's that? No one expects you to fight back. She started down the aisle, her figure fading into the church's light. Darius sat there, staring at the flickering candle she'd left burning beside him. For the first time since everything fell apart, something inside him shifted. Not hope, not yet, but anger that felt almost holy. He whispered to himself, then I'll make them remember who they buried. Outside, thunder cracked like applause. Night pressed over the city like wet cloth, heavy and breathless. Darius sat in the corner booth of a dim diner in Harlem, the kind of place where secrets were cheaper than coffee. Naomi sat across from him, laptop open, its glow slicing through the dark. She typed fast, fingers steady. On the screen, strings of code, IP traces, timestamps. I ran the audit trails, she said quietly. The trades that got you indicted were executed from your servers, but the login patterns don't match you. Darius frowned. Then who? Someone cloned your authentication key, she interrupted. The digital equivalent of your signature. Preston, he muttered. Naomi nodded. Preston Vale, your mentor, board chair. The man who told the press you were like a son to him. Her eyes met his. He's not trying to destroy Halo Bridge, Darius. He's trying to steal it. He sat back, the words cutting through the noise in his head. You can prove this? I can trace where the code originated. She pulled up a secondary screen. Schematics, server logs. This came from a sandbox server in Utah, Park City. Someone used an old project folder you left behind. He blinked. My private R&D sandbox. No one had that access. Someone did, she said. And they used it to run micro trades through a shell trust tied to Vale Holdings. The rain outside grew harder, streaking the window in silver. Darius exhaled, long and quiet. You really think he'd do this? Naomi looked up from the screen. He already did. The silence between them thickened. In the distance, a siren wailed. Somewhere else, another man's world was burning. Naomi closed the laptop and pushed it toward him. Tomorrow night, State Farm Arena. Preston's attending a private event. I can access his off-grid connection there. You want proof? That's where we'll find it. Darius shook his head slowly. You're asking me to walk into the same circle that just buried me. I'm asking you to stand where you can be seen without being recognized. Her phone buzzed once. She checked the screen, her jaw tightening. What? He asked. She hesitated, then turned it so he could see. It was a message, no sender ID, just 6 words. Stop digging. Graves aren't meant for 2. Darius felt the chill crawl up his neck. Naomi powered off the phone, slipped it into her bag, and said calmly, Looks like we're getting close. He stared at her, realizing just how much she'd risked already. Why are you doing this for me? She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up her cup, took a slow sip, and said, Because I don't like watching good men hang for someone else's sin. He wanted to believe her. Outside, a lightning flash lit the street, briefly catching the reflection of a car parked too long across the road. The driver's face was hidden behind tinted glass. Naomi stood, pulling her hood up. Don't go home tonight. Where should I go? Anywhere but where they expect you to be. She walked out first, vanishing into the blur of headlights and rain. Darius stayed a few seconds longer, staring at the untouched cup of coffee she'd left behind. The steam had already faded. He whispered to himself, Preston, what did you do? Then he followed her into the storm. The next night, Atlanta shimmered in its own kind of vanity. Limousines, velvet ropes, flashes bouncing off marble and crystal. The High Museum fundraiser was where power came to be photographed pretending to care. Darius adjusted his cufflinks, borrowed, not owned, and followed Naomi through the crowd. The tuxedo didn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes, but in this room, everyone wore masks anyway. From the balcony above, he saw Preston Vale bathed in camera light, shaking hands with governors, laughing too hard. His voice cut across the chatter, smooth as oil. "Integrity," Preston was saying, "is the backbone of innovation." The crowd applauded. Darius felt his jaw tighten. Naomi leaned closer. "He's here early. Good. That gives us time." She slipped a maintenance badge over her dress and disappeared down a service hallway. Darius was left among the champagne and perfume, the smell of money that didn't remember his name. He took a glass only to have somewhere to rest his hands. Then he walked straight toward the man who'd built him up and buried him. Preston turned just in time to fake surprise. "Darius, my God, look at you. How are you holding up?" "Like someone who finally learned what loyalty costs," Darius said. Preston smiled thinly, the way men smile when cameras might be near. "You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. The press is hunting you. They got that idea from you." "Come now." Preston chuckled, lowering his voice. "You made mistakes. We all do. But the best thing you can do now is sign the plea deal. Take the fall lightly. You'll keep your freedom. I'll make sure of it." Darius stared at him, the music swelling around them like static. "And Halo Bridge?" "Someone has to keep it running," Preston said. "Investors need confidence." "Confidence or control?" Preston's smile faltered for half a second, just long enough to confirm everything Naomi suspected. From the stage, the MC called for a short intermission. Preston leaned close. "Don't fight this, son. The system eats the defiant. Take the deal, vanish, rebuild quietly. You're not a martyr. You're a lesson." Darius forced a small laugh. "Maybe I am." Across the room, Naomi reappeared, eyes flicking toward the janitor's cart parked behind the service door. She gave the faintest nod. Darius lifted his glass in a mock toast. "To lessons, then." He walked away before Preston could reply. Minutes later, in the alley behind the museum, Naomi pried open the false bottom of that same cart and pulled out a wrapped flash drive, metallic and cold. She handed it to him. "The access key matches Preston's internal sandbox. What's on it?" "Something he doesn't want anyone to see." As thunder rolled over the city, they climbed into a waiting cab. Darius didn't look back at the museum. He didn't have to. He already knew the building behind him was full of ghosts, people smiling over other people's ruins. Naomi's voice broke the silence. "This drive might clear your name, or get you killed." Darius looked out the window, the city lights bleeding through the rain. "Then let's find out which it is." The cab turned the corner and vanished into the night. The rain followed them back to Harlem like an uninvited shadow. The cab left a streak of light across the street as it pulled away, and Darius and Naomi hurried up the narrow stairwell to her small apartment above a laundromat. The hum of washing machines below filled the silence. It smelled faintly of detergent and burnt coffee. On the cluttered table near the window sat her laptop, cords snaking like veins across the surface. Naomi inserted the flash drive. The screen flickered. A soft chime, then a long pause. Rows of encrypted folders appeared. Names, timestamps, locations, each one labeled with pieces of his empire. "Preston kept everything," she said. "He never deleted your old work. He just renamed it." Darius leaned over her shoulder. "That's Halo Bridge's architecture code, from the beta phase. These are my private notes." Naomi scrolled further. "He's using them to mask trade simulations. Every fake order, every time delay, it's built on your original test scripts." His voice hardened. "He didn't just steal from me. He used me to steal from everyone else." Naomi clicked open a hidden directory. Inside, a new set of files appeared. Plain text documents, marked KM logs. "KM," she murmured. "Kendrick Moss." Darius froze. "Kendrick's files? No. He He died in that crash 2 years ago. She opened the first entry. It was a message log, cryptic, dated weeks before Kendrick's death. If anything happens to me, the fault won't be mechanical. Preston has moved something offshore. Check the Park City node. My copy's under lock. Don't trust the board. They already picked a successor. Naomi looked up. He knew. Darius ran a hand through his hair, his breath shaky. He tried to warn me, and I ignored him. God. Thunder cracked outside, echoing like memory. Naomi clicked the next file. This one contained a list of shell accounts, all under aliases linked to a trust that connected back to Vale Holdings. It wasn't just fraud. It was a full-scale handover plan, a silent coup. Suddenly, the laptop screen went black. Wait! Naomi's hands flew across the keyboard. We just triggered a trace. A new message appeared in red text. You're digging in the wrong grave. The words pulsed once, then vanished. Naomi yanked out the flash drive. They're watching the network. Darius backed away from the table, his pulse quickening. They knew we'd find this. The lights flickered. Somewhere outside, a car engine idled too long. Naomi crossed to the window and pulled the curtain slightly aside. 2 figures stood by the curb, rain soaking their coats, faces hidden under umbrellas. One looked up just long enough for Darius to see the flash of a tattoo, a sunburst curling around his calf. It's him, Naomi whispered. The man from the subway. Darius reached for his phone, but she stopped him. Don't. If they're tracking us through this drive, they'll have your signal. He swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Naomi took a deep breath. We leave. Now. She slipped the drive into a hollowed-out candle on the shelf and grabbed her coat. If they want the truth buried, we'll make sure it burns instead. They stepped out into the storm, the neon signs flickering red against the wet pavement. Behind them, a washer buzzed, the sound almost human in its warning. The moment they hit the street, the car headlights snapped on. The men across the road began to move. Naomi caught Darius's hand, her grip firm, her voice low. No looking back. They ran, and for the first time, Darius felt what it was like to chase truth instead of power. They didn't stop running until the city lights thinned and the hum of traffic faded into the distance. Naomi's car, an old black Honda with a cracked dashboard, waited in a lot behind a closed bakery. She threw her bag into the back seat and slammed the door shut. For a moment, the world went quiet except for the soft patter of rain on the windshield. Darius sat in the passenger seat, chest still rising hard. We can't keep doing this, he said, running from ghosts. Naomi started the engine. They're not ghosts. They're people with money and reach. And right now, they know exactly what you have. He turned toward her. What I have? You're the one holding the drive. Her eyes flicked to him. And who do you think they're after? The silence between them was thick enough to cut. She drove fast, no headlights, winding through back streets that smelled of wet asphalt and cheap gasoline. Finally, she spoke again. There's someone we can talk to. A name on your list. Avery Knox. Darius tensed. She's the prosecutor on my case. She's also your old friend. You trust her? I used to. Naomi's voice softened. Then maybe she still trusts you. They found Avery that night in a dim cafe tucked behind the courthouse. The place was mostly empty, save for a waitress cleaning menus and a man nursing whiskey at the bar. Avery sat in the corner, trench coat draped over her chair, reading through a file. Her dark hair framed a face built on calculation, sharp, unreadable. When she looked up, her eyes went wide. Darius, you shouldn't be here. Then why didn't you walk away? He asked. She sighed. Because I didn't believe half of what they said. But you know how the system works. Once they smell blood, they don't stop. Naomi slid into the booth beside him, her tone clipped. You want to help him or not? Avery studied her. And you are? The reason he's still breathing. A small smile tugged at Avery's lips. I see you haven't changed, Darius. Still picking your allies like poker cards. Preston Vale, Darius said flatly. He's behind it. We have proof. Avery's brows furrowed. Proof gets people killed. Naomi reached into her coat pocket, hesitated, then pulled out the flash drive. She set it between them. This shows everything. Preston's shell companies, offshore accounts, and a dead man's logs linking him to a sabotage order. Avery looked at it like it was radioactive. You realize if this is real, it doesn't just take down Vale. It tears through half of Wall Street. Then let it, Darius said. She leaned back, exhaling. I'll need time, and I'll need to see what's on it myself. Naomi's gaze hardened. You'll see it when we say so. Not before. For a moment, the two women just stared at each other, neither flinching. Avery broke the tension first. You don't trust me. Naomi answered softly. I don't trust anyone paid to smile in court. Avery laughed once. Fair. Then meet me tomorrow. Jackson Street Bridge. Midnight. She stood, picked up her file, and left without another word. When the door closed behind her, Darius turned to Naomi. You think she'll help us? Naomi didn't answer immediately. She was watching the reflection in the window. A man standing outside, pretending to smoke, not watching the street but watching them. She lowered her voice. No, I think she already knows too much. The man flicked his lighter once, twice, a quick signal, and got into a black SUV. Naomi grabbed her bag. We leave. Now. They stepped into the rain again, the city humming low and dangerous around them. Darius looked back once, at the faint light inside the cafe, where Avery's empty cup still steamed. He had trusted her once. That was his first mistake. And as they drove away, headlights slicing through the dark, he had no idea that this meeting had already set their next betrayal in motion. The highway stretched ahead in silence, a ribbon of rain and darkness. The city had shrunk to a glow behind them. Just another place that chewed people up and pretended to forget their names. Naomi kept her eyes on the road, knuckles tight on the steering wheel. Darius watched her profile in the faint dashboard light. Calm, composed, but something was breaking behind that stillness. Finally, he spoke. You knew Avery would be there. You planned that meeting before I even mentioned her name. Naomi didn't look at him. I had to see how far she'd go. She's not the one following us, Naomi. I know. He turned toward her, voice sharpening. Then who is? Her grip tightened. The tires hissed through the wet pavement. You're not ready for that answer. He leaned closer. Try me. She took a slow breath, then pulled over beneath an overpass where the rain beat down like a drum line. She killed the engine. The world went quiet except for the steady rhythm of water on steel. Naomi turned to face him, eyes glinting in the shadows. You want the truth? I was hired to destroy you. Darius didn't move. He just stared, waiting for the rest. She kept going. 6 months ago, a joint task force reached out, said they were investigating Halo Bridge for market manipulation. They needed someone who could break through your systems quietly. I was told it was about justice. Her voice broke slightly. I said yes. He looked down, jaw tight. And you're telling me this now because it stopped being justice the moment I saw the data. Preston's fingerprints were everywhere. Every file they sent me was doctored, built to frame you. She looked away. And when I tried to back out, I started getting messages, threats, pictures of my apartment, my family. The rain outside grew harder, echoing off the bridge like gunfire. Darius's voice came low, raw. So what was your plan? Help me just long enough to hand me over? Her eyes flashed. No. My plan was to make it right before they burn me too. He laughed bitterly. You think I can trust you after this? No, she said softly. But I'm the only one left who can keep you alive. They sat there in silence, both breathing hard, both too proud to admit the fear crawling under their skin. Then, from the corner of her windshield, a reflection flickered, headlights turning the corner fast, too fast. Naomi's voice dropped to a whisper. Seatbelt. Before Darius could speak, the first bullet hit the back window. Glass exploded, spraying across his jacket. Naomi slammed the car into drive, tires screaming as the engine roared to life. Behind them, a dark SUV closed in. Same make, same tinted windows they'd seen outside the cafe. Naomi cut hard into a side street, the Honda fishtailing. They must have tracked the drive. Darius ducked as another shot shattered the side mirror. You said they wouldn't risk open fire. I said they were smart. Desperate makes people stupid. She spun the car into an alley, killed the lights, and coasted behind a dumpster. Both sat still, hearts pounding. The SUV slowed outside, engine idling, beams sweeping the brick walls. Darius's hand found hers without thought. She didn't pull away. When the car finally rolled past and disappeared into the rain, Naomi exhaled shakily. He looked at her, at the fear and defiance written together on her face, and said quietly, "You had every reason to walk away. Why didn't you?" She stared ahead. "Because I saw what happens when men like Preston win. And because I owe you more than silence." The rain softened. A siren wailed somewhere far off. Darius whispered, "Then we finish this. Together." Naomi nodded once. Together. And as the thunder rolled above them, neither noticed the black camera lens glinting on the rooftop, recording everything. Morning came like a bruise, purple, slow, and painful. They hadn't slept. The car was parked under a bridge outside Atlanta, steam rising from the hood in thin white ribbons. Naomi sat with her laptop balanced on her knees, eyes sunken but focused. Darius stood by the guardrail, staring at the skyline that once meant home. His phone buzzed. No name, just a message. "He left you something. Concourse E, 3:00 p.m. Attached was a single image, a USB drive, set on a marble counter he knew too well. Naomi leaned over his shoulder. "Where did this come from?" "An Atlanta number," he said. "But it's dead now." She frowned. "That's Hartsfield Jackson." He nodded slowly. "Kendrick used to fly from that terminal. He always said airports were honest places. People leave, but never hide." Naomi shut the laptop. "Then that's where we go. But we don't walk in together." By 2:45, the terminal buzzed with the chaos of Friday departures. Families hugged, announcements blared, children cried. Normal life moved on, oblivious to the quiet war unfolding between two people who no longer believed in coincidence. Naomi blended into the crowd in a tan coat and baseball cap. Darius followed minutes later, sunglasses masking eyes that hadn't seen rest in days. They circled Concourse E twice. Nothing. Then Naomi saw it. A baggage carousel, turning slow, half empty. A small black package rode the belt, wrapped in tape. No tag. Her chest tightened. "That's it." Darius glanced around. "Someone's watching." "Of course," she said. "Take it anyway." He stepped forward, grabbed the package and turned. That's when Naomi froze. Across the hall, a man leaning against a pillar, left leg slightly bent, a sunburst tattoo glinting on his calf. Her voice dropped. "Darius, move!" He didn't ask. He ran. The tattooed man straightened, reached into his coat, and followed. Naomi shoved through the crowd, yelling for security. People turned, startled, creating confusion. By the time she reached the nearest exit, Darius was gone. He didn't stop until he reached the parking deck. His breath came in shards. The black package weighed heavier with every step. He ripped it open inside a stairwell. A single USB drive fell into his hand. No label, just an engraving. K.M. Kendrick Moss. He plugged it into his phone using Naomi's adapter, the screen flickering once before a folder opened automatically. Inside, a single file titled Failsafe. When he tapped it, text scrolled fast, like a confession written by a ghost. "If you're reading this, they've used me or erased you." The board signed a protocol, automatic asset transfer upon conviction of the CEO. The recipient, Celine Hart, Preston's partner in everything but name. Don't trust Avery. She's not who you think. Darius felt the air leave his lungs. Celine, his ex-fiancée, The woman who left him the day before his IPO. The one who'd warned him never to mix love with legacy. The message continued. If I'm gone, the real evidence sits on an offline backup. Park City property deed, under the alias Harbor 2. The encryption key is your father's middle name. Before he could read further, his phone screen flashed red. Remote access detected. He yanked the drive free, heart hammering. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Heavy, close. Naomi's voice cut through the tension. You always ignore directions. She appeared out of the shadows, breathless but alive. He exhaled. He left us a map, Naomi. Celine. She's the one who inherits everything if I fall. Naomi's eyes darkened. Then she's not watching from the sidelines. She's playing God. He held up the drive. And this is Kendrick's dead man's switch. Then we're running out of time, she said. Because the dead man just made us both targets. Outside, the same SUV pulled from the curb, following them onto the highway, headlights dimmed. Inside the car, Naomi gripped the steering wheel, her pulse synced with the sound of rain against the glass. Darius stared out the window, Kendrick's final words still glowing on the cracked phone screen. Don't trust Avery. She's not who you think. He whispered, almost to himself. Then who the hell is she? Naomi's voice was steady. We'll find out. But first, we burn their entire kingdom. And as the airport vanished behind them, thunder cracked overhead, a sound that felt less like weather and more like the beginning of war. The storm hadn't stopped in 3 days. It rolled over Atlanta like an omen, thunder crawling across the skyline, lightning cutting through glass towers that used to bear Darius's name. Inside a half-abandoned warehouse near the rail yard, 3 figures stood around a flickering table lamp. Darius, Naomi, and Avery Knox. The air between them was thick, not with trust, but necessity. Avery set down a folder. You wanted proof Preston and Celine are working together. You've got it. Corporate filings, offshore transfers, campaign donations, clean on paper, dirty underneath. Darius flipped through the documents, his expression unreadable. And what's your angle, Avery? She met his eyes. You want your name cleared. I want the system to stop pretending it doesn't know who owns it. Naomi crossed her arms. You expect us to believe you switched sides because of principle? Avery's lips twitched. Let's just say I'm tired of being the cleanup crew for rich men's lies. Naomi leaned forward. We need access to Preston's private accounts. His live feeds, his storage, everything he's hiding. Avery pulled a flashcard from her pocket. This gives you 20 minutes inside his network before it locks again. You'll need a location, one with stable access, no surveillance. Darius spoke. I know a place. That night, they drove north, into the quiet folds of the Georgia hills. The road was slick, winding through pines that swallowed the moonlight whole. The house that waited for them wasn't his. It was Kendrick Moss's, abandoned since his death, preserved by some strange mercy of fate. The lights flickered on after years of silence. Dust curled in the air like ghosts waking from sleep. Naomi set up her laptop on the old kitchen table. If Kendrick built the original Halo Bridge framework here, this place should still have the root access keys cached. Avery hovered behind her. That's assuming it hasn't been wiped. Naomi gave her a sharp look. It's Kendrick. He never erased anything. He hid it. Darius walked to the window, staring out at the rain cutting across the fields. He knew this was coming. He tried to warn me. Naomi's fingers danced across the keyboard. Lines of code scrolled fast. Then, a click. A file opened. The room filled with blue light. Kendrick's master logs, she whispered. These are the raw transaction records. Every fake order Preston ran. Darius turned, his eyes wide. Can we extract it? We can do better. Naomi glanced up, a spark of satisfaction in her voice. We can broadcast it. Avery frowned. Broadcast? That's suicide. Not if we do it at the right moment, Naomi said. Preston's giving a speech this weekend, the Founders' Gala. Every network, every investor, every politician will be watching. Darius looked at her. You want to expose him live? She nodded. Publicly. Unstoppable. Avery's expression shifted. A flicker of something unreadable. And what about Celine? Naomi hesitated. Celine won't go down easy, but if the data connects her to Preston's shell accounts, the press will finish what we start. Darius's jaw tightened. Then we end it there. The gala. He walked over to Naomi, the distance between them smaller than it should have been. For a moment, the room felt still, like time itself held its breath. You've risked everything for this, he said. She looked up at him. So have you. Lightning flashed through the window, painting her face in white and shadow. Their eyes met, not just as allies, but as two people who had seen too much of the same darkness. Before either could speak, Avery's phone buzzed. One message. She read it, expression blank, then tucked it away before they could see. Naomi noticed. Something wrong? Avery smiled faintly. Just confirmation. The gala's still on schedule. Outside, thunder rolled again. Deep, patient, inevitable. And somewhere in the distance, the city's power grid flickered for a second, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the fall. The city glittered like it had something to prove. Atlanta's skyline pulsed with light, towers glowing gold, streets alive with the hum of engines and vanity. Inside the Atlanta History Center, the elite gathered beneath a chandelier so large it could crush a car. The Founders' Gala, Preston Vale's masterpiece. The guest list read like a royal court of American wealth. CEOs, senators, Celine Hart, radiant in silver. And in the back, invisible among them, Darius Caldwell walked once more through the world that had erased him. He wore the same expression as every powerful man in the room. Control. Only his was borrowed, stitched together by fury. Naomi's voice crackled in his earpiece. Audio feed confirmed. Preston's mic is live. He stood near the edge of the crowd, eyes fixed on the stage. Preston smiled, the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. Tonight, he began, we celebrate resilience, the ability to rise above failure, to rebuild trust. The irony made Darius's fists curl. Up in the balcony, Naomi's laptop blinked. A single file waited. Kendrick's master logs, queued for broadcast. The timing had to be perfect. Avery Knox stood at the bar below, her wine untouched, her eyes scanning every face. Darius took a deep breath. Naomi, he whispered. On your mark. She began the countdown. 3, 2. But before 1, Preston's voice changed. His tone dropped lower, deliberate, aimed at the cameras. There are moments in business where mistakes are made. And when those moments come, we must ask, who will bear the cost? The spotlight shifted, and Preston looked directly at the crowd. Halo Bridge was my proudest creation, until greed consumed it. Gasps rippled through the audience. Naomi froze. He's framing you again live. Darius's chest tightened. He turned, searching for her signal. Release it. Now. Naomi hit enter. The ballroom screens flickered. Preston's face glitched. Once, twice, and then disappeared. Code filled the monitors. Timestamps, trade IDs, transfer paths. Every fraudulent order. Every signature tied to Preston Vale and Celine Hart. The crowd murmured, confusion breaking into shock. Reporters lifted phones. Cameras zoomed in. Celine rose from her seat, face draining of color. What is this? She hissed. Naomi's voice came through Darius's earpiece, trembling but steady. Broadcast confirmed. Every major network's picking it up. Preston looked around, the smile gone, replaced by a stillness that belonged to men who finally realized the noose was real. He leaned toward the mic, his voice low. You think this clears you, Darius? You have no idea what you've started. Security guards moved toward the stage. Reporters shouted questions. Chaos bloomed like wildfire. Darius stepped forward, every eye snapping toward him. No, Preston. What you started ends here. Celine backed away, whispering into her phone. Naomi packed up fast, pulling her laptop from the balcony rail. But before she could move, A text flashed across her screen. Anonymous. Urgent. You still don't see the real player. Her blood ran cold. She looked down. Avery Knox was gone. The spot at the bar empty. Darius, she said sharply into the mic. We've got a problem. He glanced toward the exits. Avery's trench coat flicked past a guard, slipping through the door into the rain. Naomi's voice trembled now. Something's off. The transfer data, it's duplicating itself. She's pulling the files remotely. Darius turned toward the nearest security camera, jaw tightening. Avery. Then the lights went out. Screams. Phones flashing. Panic. Naomi's laptop blinked one final line before shutting down. Data redirected. External receiver. A. Knox, Jov. And in the dark, as the storm raged outside and sirens began to wail, Darius Caldwell realized the truth. The betrayal wasn't over. It had just evolved. The ballroom was chaos. Panic swarmed through silk gowns and designer suits like wildfire through dry grass. Reporters shouted. Security wrestled with camera crews, and Preston Vale vanished through a side door, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Naomi ran down from the balcony, laptop clutched tight. The screens were dark now, the last lines of code burned away. Only the echo of the revelation hung in the air, and the sinking weight of what came next. When she reached the ground floor, Darius was already gone. She found him in the corridor behind the stage, one hand pressed to the wall, trying to breathe through the smoke and the noise. "Where's Avery?" she demanded. He turned slowly, face drawn and pale. "Gone. She took everything." Naomi blinked. "No, she can't decrypt that drive. It's tied to Kendrick's key." "She didn't have to," he said quietly. "She already had her own." Naomi's stomach dropped. "You mean, she's been working for them from the start?" Before she could respond, the fire alarm shrieked. Red lights strobed through the hallway. Darius grabbed her hand and pulled her through a service exit. Outside, rain hammered the marble steps. Sirens wailed closer, blue lights cutting across the night. They ducked under the awning of a loading dock. Darius's voice broke through the downpour. "I should have seen it. The courtroom leaks, the delays. Avery wasn't helping me. She was containing me." Naomi wiped rain from her face. "She's not just with Preston, Darius. She's with someone bigger." He stared at her. "How much bigger?" She opened her laptop, fingers trembling, keys wet. "Big enough that Preston's arrest won't stop this." Lines of data spilled across the screen. A live trace. Avery's signal was transmitting from a secure channel routed through federal servers. Naomi's voice dropped. "She's not a prosecutor anymore. She's federal intelligence." Darius felt something in him snap. Not rage, not shock, but a kind of quiet clarity. "Then the entire case was never about me." "It was about Halo Bridge," Naomi said. "Your system could bypass financial surveillance. They don't want to destroy it. They want to own it." Thunder rolled again, closer this time. Darius ran a hand over his face. "We can't fight a government network." Naomi looked up at him. "We don't fight it. We expose it. Every bit of it." He shook his head. "You think anyone will believe us after tonight?" "They won't have to believe," she said. "They'll see." She pulled a second drive from her coat. Slim, metallic. "I made a backup before Avery's transfer finished." Darius stared at it like it was a heartbeat in her palm. "You copied the files?" "Not copied," she said. "Rewired. The original data is looping through Avery's own server. In 1 hour it goes live on every network she controls." He looked at her, stunned. "You planned this?" "I told you," Naomi whispered. "I don't lose twice." Lightning flashed. For a moment her face was all determination. Sharp, unshaken, and tired of being used. He stepped closer, searching her eyes. "When this ends, what happens to you?" Naomi smiled faintly. "People like me don't get endings, just exits." Before he could respond, a black SUV screeched to a stop at the end of the alley. Doors flew open. Preston stumbled out, drenched, desperate. Two men in tactical gear followed, weapons drawn. "Hand it over!" Preston shouted. His voice cracked, panic buried under rage. "That data belongs to me!" Naomi's laugh was short and cold. "No, Preston. It belongs to the truth." One of the gunmen fired, a warning shot that sparked off the brick beside her head. Darius grabbed Naomi's arm and pulled her behind a dumpster. "Run!" She clutched the drive tight. "If they get it, everything we've done dies here." "Then don't let them!" he yelled. Naomi turned, met his eyes one last time, and whispered, "Trust me." Before he could stop her, she sprinted into the open. Gunfire erupted. She dropped low, rolled behind a pillar, and flung the drive into a storm drain. The impact echoed like a bell. Rainwater swallowed the device whole. Preston screamed, "No!" and rushed forward. One of his men lunged to follow. But lightning struck the power line above the dock, exploding in a white flash. The men hit the ground as the current ripped through the puddles. When Darius looked up again, Preston was lying still. Smoke rose from the rain-soaked ground. Naomi was kneeling, drenched, breathing hard, her hands shaking. "It's done," she said. He went to her, pulled her close, held her like she was the only real thing left in the storm. Her voice trembled. "The drive's gone public. Avery's servers will push the files in 30 minutes. "And then?" he asked. Naomi met his gaze, rain streaking down her cheeks like tears. "Then the world learns how far power will go to stay untouchable." By dawn, federal agents flooded the streets. The news feeds were filled with names: Vale, Hart, Knox. The truth uncoiled like smoke through the internet, unstoppable. Darius and Naomi disappeared into the crowd outside the History Center, no longer hunted, no longer headlines, just ghosts who had outlived their story. Morning broke soft and slow over Atlanta. The storm was gone. What remained was quiet. The kind that comes after everything worth hiding has already been dragged into the light. For the first time in months, Darius Caldwell wasn't on a screen. No headlines, no investigations, no lies. Just a man walking through a city that once bowed to him and then forgot his name. He found her exactly where he knew she'd be. The Bronx Community Center, the one she'd talked about on nights when neither of them believed tomorrow would come. Naomi stood in a classroom surrounded by kids, their laughter rising through the open windows. Her hands moved across a keyboard, teaching them lines of code the same way she once traced the truth through Halo Bridge's ruins. When she saw him standing at the doorway, she didn't flinch. She just smiled, soft and tired. "Didn't think you'd show up," she said. He leaned against the frame. "You know me. I hate loose ends." The room went quiet as the kids filed out, whispering to each other like they'd seen a movie star. Darius stepped closer. "You could have disappeared. After everything." "I did," she said. "Just not from myself." He studied her face, the quiet strength, the calm eyes that had watched his entire world collapse and still found a reason to pull him back from it. "They're calling you a whistleblower," he said. "A hero." She shook her head. "Heroes don't survive what we did. They just walk away when it's over." He smiled faintly. "And is it over?" She hesitated, then looked out the window where sunlight finally spilled through. "I think the war is. The rest." She turned back to him. "The rest depends on us." For a long moment, neither spoke. The noise of the city drifted in. Distant traffic, laughter, life returning to normal. Darius reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a key. "This was supposed to open my penthouse," he said. "Now it opens a workspace downtown. I want to rebuild Halo Bridge. Not for investors, for people like them." He nodded toward the door where the kids had gone. "But I can't do it alone." Naomi stared at the key, then at him. "You sure you trust me with that?" He smiled. "You already had my life in your hands once." For the first time, she laughed, a real one. Not sharp or guarded, but free. She took the key. Their fingers brushed. 2 seconds of silence that said everything words couldn't. He whispered, 2 seconds. That's how long it took for you to change everything." Naomi met his eyes. Then let's make the next two count. Outside, the sun broke clean across the skyline. And as they walked out together, two people who had lost everything and found something far more valuable. The city carried on, unaware that in one corner of it, forgiveness had quietly rewritten the ending. The billionaire had lost his empire, but found his purpose. And in those 2 seconds, his heart remembered how to begin again.